I remember the exact moment I realized I'd been played. Not when Christy left me for Michael. Not when she emptied our joint account. It was 3 weeks after she'd taken half of everything we'd built together. Half of the dream I'd spent 8 years saving for. I was sitting alone in our half-empty restaurant at 10 p.m. on a Friday night. The place should have been packed. Instead, I had 2 tables filled with pity customers, friends who couldn't bear to see me fail. I was wiping down the bar counter for the 4th time when my phone buzzed. A notification from Christy's Instagram. Starting an exciting new chapter. With a Michael Ross Consulting. Can't wait to bring our vision to life. The photo showed them toasting with champagne flutes in front of blueprints. Blueprints that looked suspiciously like the ones I'd created myself, back when I was naive enough to share my dreams with her. I didn't smash anything. I didn't curse. I just stood there, rag in hand, staring at that photo while everything crystallized. They weren't just taking half my money. They were taking my entire concept. The high-end bistro I'd poured my soul into. But standing there, looking around at this beautiful empty restaurant with its $200 plates and pretentious menu nobody in, our neighborhood could afford, I suddenly saw what Christy never could. This wasn't really my dream at all. It was hers. And now she was taking it with her, leaving me with the debt and an expensive failure. That night, I made a decision. I closed the restaurant at midnight, sat at the bar with a bottle of whiskey, and pulled out a notepad. By sunrise, I had a completely new concept, a solid business plan, and the beginning of what would eventually become the most satisfying revenge of my life. Updated. Thanks for the incredible response to my story, guys. Several people asked if I saw warning signs before Christy left. Looking back, there were red flags everywhere. Was I just too blinded by love and ambition to notice? What do you think? I'd been a chef at Riverton's top restaurants for over a decade, working my way up from line cook to executive chef at the Oakwood, the fanciest place in our mid-sized city. The pay was decent, but the hours were brutal. 6 days a week, 14-hour days. I missed birthdays, holidays, and eventually, my own life. But I had a plan. Every month, I put away a chunk of my salary into what I called my freedom fund. For 8 years, I saved religiously. No vacations, no luxuries. Driving the same beat-up 2008 Honda Civic with 190,000 miles on it. Christy and I met when she started as the front-of-house manager at the Oakwood. She was everything I wasn't. Polished, business-savvy, with a degree in hospitality management and ambitions that matched my own. We got married after 2 years, signed a prenup, her idea, ironically, and started planning our future together. The prenup was simple. What we brought into the marriage stayed separate. What we built together would be split 50-50. At the time, it seemed fair. I had my savings. She had her family money and connections. When my freedom fund hit $320,000, I was ready. My dream had always been simple. A small, unpretentious place serving incredible food that people in our community could actually afford. Maybe 40 seats max, with a menu that changed seasonally based on local ingredients. Nothing fancy, just honest food done right. But Christy had other ideas. Christy convinced me we needed to be in the trendy West Side district, in a space with astronomical rent. She insisted on a high-end concept with tasting menus and wine pairings. I hesitated, but her belief in me was intoxicating. This isn't just about a restaurant, she'd say. This is about creating a legacy. Our legacy. So we did it her way. We leased a gorgeous space in the West Side district, hired a designer to create an Instagram-worthy interior, and brought on Michael Ross, a restaurant consultant Christy knew through her network. He had the right connections, she said. He'd help us get written up in all the right publications. The budget kept expanding. My $320,000 turned into nearly $500,000 after taking out loans. But Christy was right about one thing. When we opened Ellison, named after my grandfather, we were the talk of the town. For about a month. Then reality set in. Our location put us in direct competition with established fine dining restaurants with celebrity chefs and deep pockets. Our overhead was crushing. The locals who might have supported a neighborhood joint couldn't afford our prices, and the wealthy clientele Christy promised would flock to us were too loyal to their usual spots. We were bleeding money. Michael suggested we pivot to focus on corporate events and private parties. Christy agreed. I was outvoted, so I watched as my dream of cooking for regular people transformed into catering champagne brunches for pharmaceutical reps and retirement parties for executives. 6 months in, we were barely breaking even. I was working 20-hour days, trying to keep everything afloat. Then came that Thursday night. I just finished a private event for a law firm when Christy asked me to sit down. Her eyes were red but resolute. Christy told me she was leaving me for Michael. She wanted her half of the business in cash, as per our agreement. I reminded her that I'd contributed 8 years of savings while she contributed connections that hadn't panned out. She was unmoved. The next day, I discovered she'd withdrawn exactly half of our business account, $63,427.18. What she left me with wouldn't cover next month's expenses, let alone the outstanding loans. I spent a week in a daze, running on autopilot, serving 75 entrees to the handful of customers who still came in. Then I got a call from my landlord. He'd heard rumors about Ellison's financial troubles and Christie's departure. He was sympathetic but firm. If I couldn't make rent, he had other interested tenants. That's when I found myself alone in the restaurant that Friday night, staring at Christie's Instagram post, realizing that everything I'd built was about to crumble, and strangely feeling a weight lift from my shoulders for the first time in months. Sunday morning, I called every staff member and asked them to come in for an emergency meeting. 10 people showed up, looking nervous. They'd seen the writing on the wall. I announced that Ellison as we knew it was done. We were closing immediately. The room erupted in confused chatter. But then, I explained we were reopening in 2 weeks as something completely different. I needed a core team willing to take a risk with me. 5 people walked out immediately. Can't blame them. I was probably crazy. But 5 stayed. My sous chef Marco, 2 line cooks, a server named Jess, and surprisingly, our accountant Linda, who'd been quietly warning me about our financial situation for months. I unrolled the sketches I'd made during my whiskey-fueled epiphany. We were turning this place into the Garage, a craft burger and beer joint. No more white tablecloths, no more $200 tasting menus, just incredible food that people in this neighborhood could actually afford. Linda was skeptical about the outstanding loans. I assured her we'd renegotiate and operate on a fraction of the overhead. No more imported Italian marble plates. No more edible gold leaf. Just good food on regular plates. Jess wondered if we could really transform the place in 2 weeks. I told her we had to, otherwise we were done anyway. The next 2 weeks were a blur. We sold everything we didn't need. The fine china, the crystal, the pretentious artwork. I called in every favor from every vendor I'd worked with over the past decade. Friends came in to help us paint, transform the stuffy dining room into something with character. The white linen tablecloths were replaced with reclaimed wood tables. We installed a 12-tap draft system for local craft beers. I worked with Marco to develop a menu centered around incredible burgers, each one named after classic cars: the Mustang, the Corvette, the Challenger. My landlord, impressed by the hustle, agreed to renegotiate our lease with more favorable terms. This concept makes more sense for the neighborhood anyway, he admitted. We reopened on a Friday night with zero marketing budget, just an Instagram post and hope. By 6 p.m. we had a line down the block. Turns out, our neighborhood had been desperately waiting for a place exactly like the Garage. People who'd never set foot in Ellison were suddenly becoming regulars, coming in 2-3 times a week. The energy was electric. Our food costs dropped drastically, but quality remained impeccable. I was still buying from local farmers, still making everything from scratch, but now a meal that would have cost $200 at Ellison was $25 at the Garage, and we were packed every single night. 3 months in, we were profitable. 6 months in, we'd paid off half the outstanding loans. The staff expanded as business boomed. Linda, who'd stuck with me through the worst, was now running operations like a well-oiled machine. Marco had stepped up as kitchen manager, training new cooks with the same standards we'd held at the Oakwood. I was working harder than ever, but loving every minute. For the first time, I was cooking food I actually wanted to eat, for people I genuinely enjoyed serving. The pretension was gone. The joy had returned. Then came the day I saw Christy again. She walked in during lunch rush, Michael at her side, both of them dressed impeccably. They sat at the bar, looking around with barely concealed surprise at the packed house. I nodded to Jess, who was now our bar manager, and she went to take their order. I stayed in the kitchen, watching through the pass. Christy kept glancing my way, but I focused on the tickets piling up. After they'd finished their Corvette burgers, which they clearly enjoyed despite themselves, Christy made her way to the kitchen. In the small office off the kitchen, Christy told me Michael and she were opening a place similar to Ellison but better positioned. They wanted my expertise, a consulting arrangement, or even a partnership. I laughed in disbelief. When she reminded me she'd taken what was legally hers, I pointed out that I had all the opportunity I needed right in my thriving restaurant. As I watched them leave, Michael shooting daggers with his eyes, I felt nothing but calm. They had no idea what they were up against. A man with nothing left to lose had already rebuilt from scratch. Updated. Wow, didn't expect this post to blow up. Many of you asked about the staff who stuck with me through the transition. They became family. Marco is now head chef at our downtown location, and Jess manages our third location. Would you have kept any elements from the original concept? 1 year after reopening as the garage, we were debt-free and looking to expand. Our reputation had spread beyond the neighborhood. People were driving from neighboring cities to try our burgers. Food bloggers were featuring us in Worth the Drive lists. We'd been named Best Burger in 3 regional publications. I started looking for a second location, something in the university district to capture the student crowd. That's when I met Emma. She came in one Tuesday afternoon during the lull, between lunch and dinner service. I was experimenting with a new burger concept at the bar when she sat down 2 seats away, opened her laptop, and ordered a beer. She asked if she could work there for a bit since the coffee shop next door was packed. I offered her my experimental burger for feedback. Her suggestion to add pickled red onions for acidity was spot on. Emma turned out to be a marketing consultant specializing in food and beverage brands. She'd helped several local breweries build cult followings and was looking for new clients. We spent the next 3 hours talking strategy. By the end of the night, she'd mapped out a growth plan that made my single second location look painfully unambitious. You could have 5 locations within 2 years, she said, eyes bright with excitement, each with its own character but maintaining the core garage identity. I considered what was really holding me back. Fear, maybe. The memory of failure. Or perhaps a lingering attachment to the old belief that success in the culinary world had to look a certain way, white tablecloths and Michelin aspirations. But ultimately, I realized nothing was holding me back at all. I hired Emma the next day. We started with a second location near the university, transforming a failed coffee shop into the garage, campus edition. The menu was largely the same, with a few location-specific specials geared toward the college crowd. We opened to lines around the block. Meanwhile, Christy and Michael's venture, Elevate, finally opened in the next town over. True to form, they went high-end. Tasting menus, molecular gastronomy, the works. I heard through the industry grapevine that they were struggling from day one. Huge overhead, insufficient clientele willing to pay their prices, and constant staff turnover due to Michael's management style. 3 months after our second location opened, we secured a spot for location number 3. This one in the business district, catering to the lunch crowd with a streamlined menu and faster service model. Emma's marketing genius transformed the garage from a local favorite into a regional brand. Our Instagram following exploded. We started getting franchise inquiries, which we politely declined. This wasn't about rapid expansion. It was about controlled growth with maintained quality. Through it all, I kept cooking. Not every day at every location. That would be impossible. But I developed all the recipes, trained all the kitchen managers, and made surprise appearances to ensure standards were being met. I refused to become an absentee owner who forgot what made us successful in the first place. Damn good food served without pretension. 18 months after Christy left, we opened our 4th location. 2 years after she left, our 5th. Each restaurant had its own personality while maintaining the garage's core identity. Campus Edition had late-night hours and study booths. Business District had quick-service lunch options and power outlets at every table. Waterfront had an expanded seafood menu and outdoor seating. The original location remained my home base, though. That's where I was when Christy called to set up a meeting. Thursday at 2 p.m., they arrived looking defeated. Christy announced that Elevate was closing. They'd been trying to make it work for 8 months, but the numbers weren't there. Michael explained they were considering a concept pivot to something more accessible. What they wanted was clear: my blessing to copy the garage. They even offered a consulting fee or partnership arrangement. 2 years ago, this conversation would have sent me into a rage. Now, it just seemed sad. I declined their offer entirely. Michael threatened that they could just do it anyway, as there's no patent on burger restaurants. I simply pointed out that they'd tried to build something once with my ideas but without my passion, and it hadn't worked out well for them. Later that evening, Emma stopped by with marketing materials for our newest promotion. When I told her about Christy and Michael's proposal, she laughed in disbelief. She asked if I was worried they'd actually open a knockoff garage. I wasn't concerned. Success isn't just about the concept, but the heart behind it, something they clearly lacked. Over the past year, Emma and I had moved from business partners to friends to something more, based on mutual respect and shared values, the opposite of what I'd had with Christy. Last week marked exactly 2 years since that night I sat alone in a failing restaurant, staring at Christy's Instagram post. The garage now has 5 thriving locations, a dedicated fan base, and a reputation for consistently excellent food and a welcoming atmosphere. What started as a desperate pivot has become a business case study in successful concept development. Christy and Michael did try to launch their burger concept. They called it Elevated Garage, which wasn't even subtle. It lasted 4 months before closing. Turns out people can tell the difference between a passion project and a cash grab. Emma and I officially became partners in business and life. Her marketing brilliance and my culinary background complemented each other perfectly. Together, we've built something neither of us could have created alone. I still cook regularly, not because I have to, but because I want to. Some mornings, I arrive at the original garage at 5 a.m. to work on new recipes before the staff arrives. The place is quiet, just me and the ingredients and the endless possibilities. Those are my favorite moments. Yesterday, I received a letter from a national restaurant group offering to buy the Garage brand for a sum that made my eyes water. 8 figures. More money than I'd ever imagined having. The old me, the one who equated culinary success with elite dining and critical acclaim, might have been tempted. But the new me knows better. Success isn't measured in dollars or stars, or features in glossy magazines. It's measured in full restaurants and happy customers, in staff who stay because they feel valued, in the freedom to create food you believe in. I showed the offer to Emma over dinner at our home. She wondered if we were selling out and moving to Tahiti. Not a chance. We were just getting started. Sometimes I think about calling Christy to thank her. If she hadn't left, taking half my savings and all her pretensions with her, I might never have found the courage to build the garage. I might still be serving overpriced tasting menus to empty tables, chasing someone else's definition of success. Instead, I'm living my own dream, the one I'd almost forgotten in the pursuit of hers. And it turns out, my original vision was the right one all along. Just good food, served with integrity to people who appreciate it. The best revenge isn't just living well, it's living authentically. It took losing everything to remember what I really wanted in the first place. Updated. Thank you all for the incredible support and comments on this journey. So many of you asked about franchising opportunities. Not yet, but maybe someday. The question I keep asking myself is, would I have found this success if Christy hadn't left? Has betrayal ever led to something better in your life?